This is TechModo, a Gizmodo series where we take a dive into some of the most recent tech news with some expert guests. This week, what's so great about the new Apple hardware drop? And consumer tech editor Michelle Ehrhardt tells me exactly what laptop to buy for Christmas. 2022 is winding down, and some of the year's bigger tech releases were Apple's new hardware drop. This included iPhones, iPads, and more specifically, Apple released its new MacBooks earlier this year, which is awesome if you're a tech nut. But what if you're not a tech nut? How are us normies supposed to know how to buy a laptop in a marketplace touting hard drives this fast and memory this big and screens this clear? Well, that's a wonderful question, and one I wanted selfishly answered for myself. So I sat down with Gizmodo's own consumer tech editor, Michelle Ehrhardt, on what's so great about the new MacBooks and what to look for when buying a new laptop. What are the kind of go-to things that people should look out for when they're interested in buying a new piece of hardware, specifically something like a laptop?
Okay, well, it really depends on what your needs are.
Right.
I would say the big things you want to decide is like, are you just going to use it mostly for browsing and in-browser applications? Occasionally you might like edit a video or whatever. Are you going to use it for hardcore 3D modeling or like financial prediction? Are you going to use it for gaming? Because that will determine your sort of needs. I think there's a certain base level that I wouldn't go below.
Sure. Depending
on your needs, you can get away with all sorts of different processors, but moving into the future, I really wouldn't go below 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay.
A lot of companies will like try to sell you extreme budget models with 8 gigabytes of RAM. I just don't see that lasting a lot into the future. We already know how much RAM like Google Chrome eats up, right? I wouldn't go below 512 gigabytes of memory. That might be a little bit like liberal. Some people might say, oh, you can make do with 256 gigabytes of memory. But again, it'll just help your laptop last longer, which is better, I think, for the future. This year, I actually did our MacBook Air with the M2 chip review.
Yeah.
And I have to say, for most people, it's probably my favorite laptop of the year.
Yeah.
And the reason why is mostly because I have it off screen here.
This is beautiful.
It's got a very powerful new chip. The M2 is like, I would say 33% faster than the M1, pulling from memory here.
Is that percentage something that you think like the average person would notice?
I would say probably not. It's good for power users, but I wouldn't recommend the M2 Air for power users. And that's because it's got a fanless design. So if it starts heating up, like you're doing power work for 30 minutes, an hour, you're going to get throttled performance, which means that your chip is going to not put out as much power as it could to avoid the machine catching on fire. I'm exaggerating, but to keep its battery, its lifetime going on. The reason why I would recommend the M2 Air is that it's like Apple's finally redesigned the MacBook Air, and I really like it. You'll notice this complete flat line,
I like that.
as opposed to the like wedge shape of the previous Air. The other big thing that you'll probably notice first when you get the MacBook Air is it has a big notch here. I noticed you were telling me you liked it.
I do, yes.
I think it's kind of divisive.
Yes.
But what it does let you do is it lets you get thinner bezels everywhere else that's not a notch, which means the laptop itself hasn't gotten any larger, but you get a larger screen with it. You get more screen real estate. And having used this over time, I do end up liking that. It's got Magsafe charging back. So you don't have to rely purely on USB-C anymore. You do have 2 USB-C ports and an audio jack, but you also have a number of MagSafe charging options when you buy this. The other thing you might have noticed is you have a full function row. The prior MacBook had these tiny little itty bitty keys, but now you just have like full proper keys.
So that's the Air, and you guys prefer the Air over the Pro?
Yes, the Pro does not have all these nice new design features. The Pro, which is currently, you can get the M2 chip in the MacBook Pro 13-inch, which is using the same body as older models of that machine. And the only real advantage we saw to it is that it does have a fan. Which means that if you are a power user, it is going to not throttle as easily. You can continue to 3D model with it.
Right.
It's like a must buy for a certain subset of people.
Michelle, thank you so much. This has been a lot to chew on, but it's all very important.
Please feel free to reach out to me at my Twitter or in the comments, and I'm happy to discuss.
Cool. Be nice to Michelle.
Be nice to me.
Michelle gave me a lot to work with regarding buying a new laptop to replace the one I currently have, which I swear I can hear whispering, "Kill me," as I do anything remotely intensive on. I'm definitely gonna stick with Mac, mainly because that's all I've known for the last few years, but also because I just don't need anything fancier. Most of my free time is spent writing in Google Docs and watching YouTube videos anyway. I will, however, probably move from the MacBook Pro, which I currently have, to the MacBook Air based on Michelle's recommendation. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and check out other Gizmodo videos here on YouTube.